Okay, so in this activity, we are trying to join these sentences together to form a coherent paragraph. When a paragraph is coherent, it means that all the different parts work together. Another way of saying it is to say that the paragraph is unified, that they're all working together as one piece. And so the first thing we look at whenever we're thinking about whether a paragraph is unified is this first sentence, which is called a topic sentence. So a topic sentence is what sets the frame around the rest of the paragraph. It tells the reader what the paragraph is going to be about. So in order to have a sentence that is, or a paragraph that is coherent, we want to make sure that all the sentences, every sentence should be able to link logically, directly with this sentence. So the sentence, and a way that we can analyze that, which I'll be using in this lesson, is what's called like the topic and the comment. So every sentence can be understood to have these two parts, a topic and a comment. The topic is the thing that the sentence tells a story about, whereas the comment is the story that we're telling. So an example of this would be these two sentences. Bees make honey, and honey is made by bees. So if you look at these two sentences, you might say, well, they mean exactly the same thing. They have the same verb, it's in the same tense, and they have the same participants, the bees and the honey. And at the level of logic, at the level of grammar, it is the same sentence. It's saying the same thing. But at the level of organization, these sentences are totally different. This first sentence is telling us a story about bees, whereas the second sentence is telling us a story about honey. So whatever we put in the topic section here, that is what the sentence is telling a story about. And you might notice that these are the grammatical subject, like bees make honey. If you look at subject, verb, object, of course, bees is the subject here and honey is the subject, but the topic is not always the subject. For example, you could have a sentence such as a prepositional phrase, from this perspective. From this perspective, honey seems natural. Okay. So the point is that in the topic position, you can also have a prepositional phrase or whatever you might have. It's the point of departure for the sentence. That's what the topic is. So we're going to be using this chart as we analyze our paragraph because it's going to help us see whether the pieces are working together to form a coherent paragraph. So the first sentence, as we said, the topic sentence, pizza has a long history. But then we see the next sentence, it says, some people say that pizza comes from ancient Greece. And I say, whoa, I thought you were going to be telling me a story about pizza. And then all of a sudden you're telling me a story about some people. So we want to get this information out of the way. And the way that we can do that is by making it dependent. So you may already know there are three kinds of clauses in the language. There we go. Three kinds of clauses. There are finite independent clauses. Okay, that's just like a complete sentence. Then we have, I'll give you an example in a moment. Non-finite finite dependent clauses, and then non-finite dependent clauses. So let's break down these words. First of all, what does finite mean? Finite is about time. You might know, infinity is the opposite of time. It's no time. So finite means the verb has tense. So for an example of a verb that does not have tense, you could have like to have, whereas a verb that verb containing tense, this is non-finite. So if it was finite, it would be like has or had, right? Or we have. Okay, so these verbs carry tense. They have been conjugated. So that's what we mean by finite. And independent means that it can stand by itself. So, bees make honey. There we go. The verb has tense. It is an independent clause. There's a subject and a verb with tense, so it's an independent clause. Now, the next kind of clause looks like an independent clause, but there is a slight difference. So let's take, for example, this independent clause, bees make honey, but then let's attach a subordinating conjunction to it, such as because. Because bees make honey, comma, because bees make honey, they are very sweet. I don't know. Okay, so they are very sweet. That is an independent clause. It can stand on its own. But this clause is not independent because of this word. This word because is a subordinating conjunction, so it knocks the independent clause down in the order. It's no longer independent, it becomes dependent because of that. You cannot have a sentence that says because bees make honey. It doesn't mean anything. That needs to attach to an independent clause in order to mean anything. So we call that a finite dependent clause. And then for a non-finite dependent clause, it's the same idea, but we remove the subject and we remove the tense. So instead of bees make honey, we would remove the subject and then remove the tense by switching the verb to a non-finite ing. Making honey is one of the jobs of a bee. Okay, so making honey, that is a non-finite dependent clause, and when we make it non-finite, we can use it as a noun. So you see, we now have this clause, the non-finite dependent clause. It's now in the subject position. So those are the three kinds of verbs in the English language. That's all of them. Okay, so whenever we look at a clause such as some people say that pizza comes from ancient Greece, we do not want that to be an independent clause because that is going to put some people in the topic position, and we don't want that. We want the topic or the comment to link up logically with the next sentence so that it flows together. So let's look at these two clauses. Some people say that that pizza comes from ancient Greece. That pizza was just flatbread with oil. So here we have that pizza. I want that to be in the topic position. And so what is the relationship between these two clauses? I think it's a relationship of contrast, right? Some people think this, but that pizza was just flatbread with oil. So if we wanted to join them as two independent clauses, we could join them with the word but that pizza was just flatbread with oil. However, we don't want to do that because we do not want this to be an independent clause. We want to make it small so that that pizza becomes the focus of our sentence. So let's make this dependent by attaching a subordinating conjunction to it, such as while or although. Okay, but is for independent clauses, and these are better for, these form dependent clauses. So we'll go with while here. While some people say that pizza comes from ancient Greece, comma, that pizza was just flatbread with oil. Great. Modern pizza, look at how well this is lining up now. Modern pizza, what about it? Modern pizza is a flatbread with cheese and toppings. Now take a look between these two clauses. These are two sentences. We're going to leave them as sentences, but what kind of a relationship do they have with each other? Do they have a certain relationship? They're kind of opposite each other, aren't they? So let's use a adverb. We're going to leave them as sentences, but let's join them with an adverb, a sentence connector, such as by contrast. Right? By contrast, modern pizza is a flatbread with cheese and toppings. The problem now, though, is we've knocked modern pizza out of the topic position. Now we're beginning the sentence with by contrast. And I don't want to do that because I like the way this is all lining up. So what we can do is take that sentence connector and move it over here on the other side of the subject. Modern pizza, by contrast, is a flatbread with cheese and toppings. Now, let's look at this previous sentence. This complex sentence has information about the recipe for pizza, and it tells us where it comes from. So wouldn't it be nice if we could have this information about where the pizza comes from? Wouldn't it be nice if that information was in this sentence? And if, just like this first sentence, let's put that comes from information in a dependent clause. So the way that we can do that is by making a relative clause. So it becomes modern pizza, by contrast, is a flatbread with cheese and toppings that probably started in Naples, Italy in the 1700s. That's great. So now we just have these two sentences that contain all that information. This is, I haven't represented this, but this is kind of out of the way. You know, it's somewhere over here. You know, although some people say that it comes from ancient Greece, that pizza was just flatbread with oil. Modern pizza is a flatbread with cheese and toppings that probably started in Naples, Italy in the 1700s. Okay, now look, this sentence is ending with in the 1700s. Then we have one that says it was cheap and sold in markets. And then this one begins with at that time. So for sure, I want the end of this sentence and the beginning of this sentence to link up. I want the next sentence to begin with at that time. And that means I need to get this out of the way. And probably these two sentences, it was cheap and sold in markets, I think that gives us information about why it was considered peasant food. So we can say pizza was considered peasant food because it was cheap and sold in markets. And look at that. At that time is linking up nicely here with at that time. So the end of this sentence and the beginning of this sentence flow really nicely together. And it's also linking up to the comment of the topic sentence, which is about having a long history, time and history. So far, so good. The whole all the pieces of the paragraph are working very well together. Pizza became popular across Italy when an Italian queen in the 1760s tasted cheese pizza. Okay. So before we combine these sentences, what I want you to see is let's break this apart. So subject, pizza, linking verb, became popular, where? Across Italy. And then we have a finite dependent clause right here, beginning with when. So when an Italian queen in the 1760s, she tasted cheese pizza. She tasted, what did she taste? Cheese pizza. So the thing I want to draw your attention to here is this prepositional phrase. What do you think? Should we be using this prepositional phrase to modify the queen? Is the queen in the 1760s? Or is the 1760s the time when pizza became popular across Italy? Right? We don't want the prepositional phrase to be inside the noun. That's where it is right now. It's inside this noun. An Italian queen in the 1960s. That whole thing is a noun phrase. We don't want the prepositional phrase in the noun. We want it to modify the clause. So you can put it here at the beginning. In the 1760s, pizza became popular across Italy. Or what I think is better is to put it over here, because in the 1760s flows really nicely into the subordinating conjunction when. So in the 1760s, pizza became popular across Italy in the 1760s when an Italian queen tasted cheese pizza. Okay, and then we see the queen loved it. What do you think? Does that need to be its own sentence? Probably not. So we're going to put this into the same sentence. And I guess it'll be a relationship of addition, and the queen, or even she, loved it. But now what we're looking at is a compound sentence. Just get this alone here. We see an Italian queen A compound sentence is when we join two independent clauses using fanboys, right? For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Those words are the ones that we use to join independent clauses together inside a sentence, not outside a sentence, right? We use sentence connectors to join sentences together. So however and therefore, those are sentence connectors, but inside a sentence, we join independent clauses together using fanboys. So that's what we're doing here. We have two independent clauses. An Italian queen tasted cheese pizza and the Italian queen loved it. But since these two independent clauses are using the same subject, an Italian queen, she, we can reduce it. And the way that we can do that is by deleting the subject and deleting the comma. So it becomes an Italian queen tasted cheese pizza and loved it. So when that happened, pizza became popular across Italy. Now we have pizza, again, back in our topic position, and the comment is about when it became popular. Oh, not this one. So working really well now. Next sentence, beginning with time. This is great. For hundreds of years, pizza was not popular outside of Italy. Okay. And then it became a global food. So what do you think? What's the relationship between these two sentences? We should always try to show the logical relationship among these ideas. And here we have a relationship of contrast. However, in the 1940s, pizza became a global food. Italian immigrants and World War II soldiers, I thought we were talking about pizza and history. So we do not want a sentence to have Italian immigrants and World War II soldiers in the topic position. So we're going to make this dependent, which we can do with a subordinating conjunction like when, right? So we can have when. However, in the 1940s, pizza became a global food when, and you know what, just as before, I think the preposition about time is going to go best next to this subordinating conjunction when. So we have, for hundreds of years, pizza was not popular outside of Italy. Get that here. It's not popular outside of Italy. However, pizza became a global food in the 1940s when Italian immigrants and World War II soldiers wanted to experience the taste of Naples. Pizza became a global food. Look at that. So all in all, just get all these, I'll get all these comments out of the way and we can see how the paragraph looks. Okay. And so our final paragraph has become, pizza has a long history. While some people say that pizza comes from ancient Greece, that pizza was just flatbread with oil. Modern pizza, by contrast, is a flatbread with cheese and toppings that probably started in Naples, Italy in the 1700s. At that time, pizza was considered peasant food because it was cheap and sold in markets. Pizza became popular across Italy in the 1760s when an Italian queen tasted cheese pizza and loved it. For hundreds of years, pizza was not popular outside of Italy. However, pizza became a global food in the 1940s when Italian immigrants and World War II soldiers wanted to experience the taste of Naples. That's pretty good. And the reason that it's good, like the reason we say that's a unified, coherent paragraph is exactly because of this. We've paid careful attention to the topic and the comment of each sentence and have organized the elements in those sentences such that all these line up. all the sentences work together. They're working together, they're pushing off of each other, building on each other. All the relationships between the clauses are shown using subordinating conjunctions and coordinating conjunctions and sentence connectors. So hope that's helpful. Yeah, if you have any questions, definitely let me know.